Hey, what's up, fight fans? It is Will back here once again for another fight card prediction, and we're in for a good one here. It's nearly fight time. All the speculation of the fight, would they ever fight, or would it ever happen, or would this guy step up and fight that guy? It's finally here. It's a week out. UFC 229. I'm here to break down that. Khabib Nurmagomedov against Conor McGregor for the UFC Lightweight Championship of the World. And yeah, I think if you're a true fight fan, you're looking forward to this fight. It's our biggest fight of the year. Could possibly be the biggest fight the UFC's ever put on in pay-per-view. You have to think the numbers are going to do fairly well here. And I mean, there's so much passion with this matchup. It's not even funny. So many people with their own aspects on how the fight is going to go down, and it's just so interesting. And it's kind of a little bit. I've been ill this week. I had food poisoning, which sucked. So I've been a little bit more online and having a look at some people's opinions and stuff, and people are attacking each other, and that's sad. It's just people's opinions on who's going to win the fight, and there's so much passion with this guy. Khabib's definitely going to do this, and Conor's going to definitely do this. That both fan bases are rabid fans, and it's taken off, and it's by fight time next week. It's going to be incredible. So yeah, I'm here to break down UFC 229 from Las Vegas, obviously. And yeah, we're coming off. I was coming off the Sao Paulo card last week, which I started off well and then faded pretty badly. I think I went about 8-5 with my picks altogether, so not too bad. But like I say, I started off well, didn't finish great. So that's a little bit of a kick in the balls, which I thought I was going to do decent on the main card, and kind of struggle with the prelims, if I was being honest with you. As always, thank you for the likes, comments, subscribes. You guys are awesome. The goal is to try and get maybe 100 likes per video, which would be pretty awesome if I could get up to that. So please like if you can. If you haven't subscribed, just subscribe and get talking with the fellow fight fans that leave comments week in, week out regarding my picks, their picks, who they're betting on, who's this, that. I want to see a lot of chatter for this one, because this is a big fight. I want to hear everybody's opinion on this, because, like I've been saying to people for years, I wish there was more people that did this. There's not that many of us that do it. Go on camera, speak about how they feel about the fights, and put their perspective out there. So I want to see more people do that. And if you can't do it on camera, just do it in comment, and let's start. But just respect other people's opinions, because that's how they see things. That's how the picks I give you is how I see things going. So yeah, be respectful with it. Let's not jump down each other's throats, and let's just enjoy the lead up to this card. Yeah, as always, just stick with me. I will leave timestamps on all the fights here. And if there's a certain fight you particularly want to hear me speak about or not speak about, or just skip to a fight that you want me here to talk about, the timestamps are there, so you can jump ahead and do that. I'm going to be going forward things. I've had some people personally email me and talk about Patreon regarding that going forward. I think some people out there, they say they would support me in doing that, and so if you think I should maybe think about doing that, let me know. But like I say, I just want to, going forward, there might be a couple of changes, but that might be a little bit way out yet. And as always, if you cannot put in the time to look at the fights yourself, feel confident with the one you have, for me, my recommendation, and there was a little bit of a few people spoke up regarding who I promote here, and Rob is a friend of mine, so I'm going to get that out there straight away. His number speaks for himself for this year alone, and he's won his last couple of years, so the money's there. It's all tracked. So yeah, but my recommendation, if you can't look into these fights and you're looking to bet on fights, you can't really look any further than Rob, in my opinion. On a 14 bet winning streak, that's pretty good. I don't care who you are. Winning bets is not the easiest thing in the world. Let me tell you, I struggled last year. I'm doing really well this year. But 14, 15 bets in a row, That's some crazy, crazy shit they have to be doing. He's up huge this year. He's about to wrap up another massive, massive year of profit, and he's never lost a year for the years that he's been tracking. So I wouldn't be recommending him if I didn't think he was a legit recommendation. So if you want to purchase these bets here, go to robbrownbetting.com, buy a package. When you get to checkout, you can put the code in Will, and you can get 20% off any bet pack that Rob has going there. And yeah, but just remember, you have to go to the checkout, put my code Will in there, and you will get 20% off. So that's if you want to go and buy some bets. And if you haven't got the time, I would go and look into that, definitely. So let's get into this fight card. I've kind of waffled on a little bit. Overall, I think the cards, I don't particularly like the UFC Fight Pass prelims. I think the other prelims are decent. I do think they're good. And then once you get into the main card, I really actually quite like the main card. I think it's a good, solid main card with a really solid couple of fights up top there. So I'm going to try and get through this quite quick, the prelims, and then get onto the main card, which is, I think I'm sure everybody's really checking to see how I see some of those fights going. So starting off in the welterweight division, we've got Ryan LaFleur against Tony Martin. And initially I was pretty heavy on Ryan LaFleur, and then like I say, this week I've had food poisoning, so I've managed to watch quite a few more fights back over again and see where some certain people I think are at. And I was pretty heavy on Ryan LaFleur, but that's kind of waned as the last kind of couple of weeks have went on, honestly. And I think that Tony Martin, I think this could be a fight that's going to be ultimately very, very close. I like the fact that Tony's not making as big a cut as he used to make 155, and he's at probably more of a natural weight class, a more healthy weight class for him. And I just like, when I look at this one, I think some of his wins are really good. I think Alex, they're not great wins, but they're good wins. Alex White, Johnny Case, Keita Nakamura. I like Nakamura. I think he's a really solid fighter. Lost a very close split to Aubin Mercy, but being up at welterweight here, I think it's a more healthier weight for him. I think he's at 155. His cardio was a little bit depleted. He's went to American Top Team full time, working with far better grapplers than he was previously before, and I think in this fight that could be a big defining factor. I think overall the better wrestler grappler is LaFleur, but he's kind of getting on in age. He's 34 years old. He's been around a long time, and that's kind of his game. And his game is a kind of grinding game where he can get you to decision and win. He's did that. Ponzinibbio was like 5 years ago. Court McGee, Mike Pierce, Zhucao was one I remember. And he is coming off a win over Alex Garcia after getting knocked out against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. I think on the feet, I think that Tony Martin's a little bit more crisper. I think he's got a bit more variety, and it's just a little bit more defensively aware, I think, as well. The Flair leaves it hanging a little bit. He throws a lot. When he throws a lot, if you're a good counter puncher, which I don't think Martin particularly is, I think he can catch you and hurt you. I see this being super close. I see both guys win the round, and who wants it in the third round. For me, I think Tony Martin's going to just do enough to win this fight. But like I said, I'm not super confident, but I am more confident in picking Tony Martin in this spot, and I've got him via a decision there. So moving on, lightweight division. Gray Maynard against Nick Lentz. I think that Gray Maynard should probably be retired. I think that Nick Lentz should maybe be at 145, even though he was completely emaciated trying to make that division. But yeah, if we're going to Nick Lentz, like I say, I'm not thoroughly enamored with this fight here. He got outclassed by David Teymur. He tried to reach in for takedowns. Teymur's striking and his speed was far too good. And ultimately, that's how he lost that fight. Beat Will Brooks via guillotine, which was a turn-up, if we're being honest there. Lost to Islam, and then he won a couple other fights. But honestly, I think if it's I don't know. I'm not too fussed with this fight, if I'm being honest with you. Gray Maynard, I thought was done ages ago, and Gray Maynard's it's quite funny because every time I mention the guy's name, I think of Teruto Ishihara, and I was so confident in that bet. and he went out there and beat Teruto, which was his last fight. I thought he fought. I actually thought he fought another one in between now. Maybe it was just the Bruno fight, but really, I think Gray is pretty much done at this point. Even though Teruto gave him that fight and didn't really fight a good fight. Nick Lentz, I think, is just a little bit better. I think that Gray in the heyday, I think Gray would really handle Nick Lentz, honestly. But in this kind of point right now, I think that Nick Lentz has just got a little bit more in him than what Gray Maynard has. So I'm going to go Nick Lentz. I'm not going to be glued to the TV watching that one, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, I've got Nick Lentz to win via. I think he could he stop Gray Maynard? Possibly. I'm going to go decision. Thinking about it now, I'm thinking maybe he can catch a submission. In fact, you know what? I'm going to go for a submission. I'm going to go for a submission win for Nick Lentz. I think he might catch him in that guillotine he caught Will Brooks in, and if he catches him in that, I think that Gray could tap out. So Nick Lentz for me there. Lightweight division, Scott Holtzman against Alan Patrick. I see this one being very close. I think there's a lot of people super confident in Alan Patrick. I can see why. He's got that game where he's just a blanket fighter. He's not the best guy in the world to watch, but the guy wins fights. And he's not a young guy either. He's 35, 36 years old. He's been in the UFC for 6 years now, I want to say. And he's got wins. He's got a 5-1 record, which is, when you think about it, he's only really fighting once a year. Wins over Damir Hadzovic. I think that's a good win because I think Damir's dangerous. Stevie was a good win where he just blanketed him. Damian Brown was a good win. And his only loss in there was to Tysumov, where he got caught with a head kick and then got taken out with strikes. Scott Holtzman, like I said, Patrick, pretty athletic. His striking's really kind of herky-jerky and his footwork's a little bit weird. But his ultimate goal is to get you to the ground where he blankets you. And he's really tough to go off you. So, yeah, when you go into Scott Holtzman, a kind of forgotten guy. I forgot about Scott Holtzman. I liked his fight last time against Darrell Horcher. I thought it was a fun back and forward fight between two veterans of the sport. He came out on top with that one. Beat Michael McBride, who job-faced really is Michael McBride, with his only 2 losses in the UFC to Drew Dober and Josh Emmett via decision. So it's whether Alan Patrick can establish the takedowns, which I think he can, but I think that Scott Holtzman can find a way to get back to his feet, and that's the thing here, because in these fights, if Patrick can keep you down, he ultimately wins the fights. I just got a funny feeling that Scott Holtzman is going to find a way to stop a couple of takedowns, discourage Alan Patrick a little bit, but I do still see him going down a couple of times. I see this fight being super close, honestly. I've got Alan Patrick via a very close split decision. I think that on the feet, Holtzman might maybe use leg kicks, establish that, try and get in close, but has to be very careful because, like I say, Alan Patrick's one of those blanket fighters. But yeah, for me, I'm going to go Alan Patrick split decision win there. But I think that Scott Holtzman's actually pretty live. People are writing him off. I'm not going to write him off. I just think that Patrick's, that blanketing style is just going to win him enough in this fight. And honestly, I want Holtzman to win just to stop, because Patrick's not a good fighter to watch. But hey, it's what it is. Moving on, women's bantamweight division, we have Lina Lansberg against Yana Kunitskaya, and I like this for Kunitskaya. I think that she's the younger, the younger fighter. Obviously, Lina's been around a long time. She's taken a lot of damage. That Pudilova fight, she took a lot of damage. Even Mazzani in her last fight gave her a fair bit of damage. But all her fights always seem to congregate skin on skin, pretty much in each other's face, against the cage, in the clinch, and that's kind of when you watch majority of her fights. I've watched 4 or 5 of them for this one here, maybe even a few more, and all her fights just seem to go into a clinch fest against the cage, where there's a lot of elbows, a lot of dirty techniques, dirty strikes. dirty strikes, I shouldn't have said that, in close personal strikes. And it's just a very, very close fight, always with Lina Lansberg. I picked Mazany last time out, and when I was watching it, I thought she's got a chance, but ultimately she went on and she won that fight against Gina Mazany. She got stopped before that by Lina Lansberg in Poland, which I thought would happen, and she went in, that went in there and happened. For me, Kunitskaya, when you watch her fights and she initiates into the clinch, she's the far better clinch fighter, and it's something that you have to be very careful of. She's got, I just think on the feet, I think she's got a bit more technique. I think she's got a bit more pizzazz with her striking. And when she gets into the clinch, I think she can beat up Lina Lansberg here. And for me, I think Yana Kunitskaya is a pretty confident pick for me. I'm not overly big on Lina Lansberg. I think she's at the kind of tail end of her career. I think there's a good matchup for Yana Kunitskaya. So do I pick her via stoppage? I think Lina's a tough cookie. And I think this is a kind of coming out party for Yana in the UFC. She came in against Chris Cyborg and she just got her ass beat pretty much. And that's pretty much what she was brought in for. And yeah, for me, I'm not confident in picking Lina Lansberg. I'm far more confident in picking Yana Kunitskaya. Plus, she's got more submission. She's got submissions there as well. We've seen in her fights back in the past. If you look at her record, she's got some there. Yeah, for me, I just like Yana Kunitskaya. I think she does more. She beats up Lansberg. She marks her up. Lansberg is one of the worst fighters for getting marked up and like beat up badly. So Yana Kunitskaya, I'm going to pick via. I'm going to pick a stoppage. I'm going to pick a stoppage. I think she kind of hurts on and finishes on the third round. So Yana Kunitskaya for the win there. Staying in the women's bantamweight division, we've got Aspen lad against Tonya Evinger, and this was one of the, when I first heard the fight card, this is one of the fights that had early odds. So I went and watched, and when I heard about the matchup, I had no definitive pick for that. I thought you've got the young fighter, obviously, in Aspen lad, who's coming through. She's only like 22, 23, I believe, and undefeated fighter. I've seen her come all the way through Invicta, wins over Amanda Cooper, who's in the UFC, and Kaylee McGill, who's another fighter that I watched before in Invicta. Sijara Eubanks was another one who she's in the UFC as well now, and came in a UFC debut against Lina Lansberg and got a stoppage there as well, and kind of brutalised Lina Lansberg in that one. The one thing that does worry me is just the fact that she's pulled out of a couple of fights. She was supposed to fight Jessica Ai. That fight got pulled, I think, the day before. She missed weight, I think, against Leslie Smith. That fight got pulled. But looking at her social media, she looks in great shape. Now, I said this last time out in my video with Luis Enrique, and he fought like utter dog doo-doo, pretty much. I think that lad's got a little bit, I'm hoping she's got a little bit more than what Luis Enrique had, because he gassed out inside the first 2 minutes of that fight, pretty much. And she's got a tough opponent here in Tonya Evinger, who's, I mean, she's old. She's like 30. Must be in her late 30s, at least, been around a long time, far more experience. So that experience gap's going to be big here. Thought that Evinger gave a very spirited performance against Chris Cyborg, but ultimately just got beat up. Had a great run through Invicta, beat some decent opposition. Cindy Dandwa, decent. Cindy Dandwa, Irene Aldana, Pani Kianzad, Colleen Schneider. That was, I think, her high point of her career. That Invicta run will always be a high point. And then she's coming to the UFC here. Lost to Yana Kunitskaya, actually, then beat her via submission in the second. And they then come in against Chris Cyborg here. I just think that Aspen lad, if she has a solid weight cut and she's on point, I think that she's just a little bit too physical for someone like Tonya Evinger. And I'm thinking, right, does she beat her up in the feet? I don't see it. In the grappling, I think that she has opportunities, but I also think that Aspen Ladd is the stronger fighter. I think she's got a bit more strength to her. If the fight goes on late and the tide starts to turn a little bit, could Tonya come into that? Possibly. She's dangerous with some of her submissions as well. For me, I'm just more confident in Aspen Ladd, and I actually bet Aspen Ladd at -110. I don't know where that line is now, but I think I heard someone say the other day it's skyrocketed to like -175 or -185. So yeah, that's I got some decent value in that. I just hope she goes ahead and cashes. But for me, I'm going to pick Aspen Ladd to win via a decision there. Moving on, welterweight division, we've got Vicente Luque against Jalin Turner. This one got added, I think, like a week and a half ago. And a little bit of a surprise because Vicente Luque is a named guy, I think, in the welterweight division. Teetering on that top 15 of gone into that the rankings there. And he's getting a newcomer who we saw fight in the Dana White Contender Series when he beat Max Mustafi, I think his name was, and stopped him there. Jalin Turner fights long, decent jab. I just don't think... It's just a weird match to put together. It's one of those... And we're seeing a couple of these now with... We've seen it with Thiago Santos and... what's his name? Kevin Holland, who fought at UFC 228 or 227, sorry. And that got put together very, very short. But... yeah, I just think it's a little bit too soon for this kid. You have to go in there and pay your dues. I've seen him get knocked out in the regionals. There's a fight on YouTube there if you go and look him against Richard Leroux, who knocked him out in the third round there with punches. And I've seen him at Bellator. There's a fight there against Noah Tillis. And then he's obviously got that fight in the Dana White Contender Show. For me, I just think that when you look at Vicente Luque, really solid, sharp striking, very, very super dangerous submissions, really good footwork, really good hand speed, and really nice combinations. Never rushes things, takes his time. He's a bit of assassin, is Vicente Luque. He can stand in the pocket, he can mix it up from kind of range, and he's one of those fighters that I think very soon people are not going to want to really start fighting this guy because he's such a well-rounded fighter in every aspect. He's starting to put it all together. A couple of really good wins. I mean, stoppages. Nico Price, Chad Leprise in the first round last time out. Lost that close fight to Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is a ranked guy. And then knocking out Bilal Muhammad. Muhammad, I think, is a solid dude. The guy's making progressions. This is just another step in his progression here. And I see him inside the first two rounds, stopping Jalin Turner. I think he can beat him up in the feet a little bit. I think he may take him to the ground. I think the inexperience of Jalin Turner on the ground will show, and Vicente Luque will finish this fight. I'm going to go submission victory there for Jalin Turner in round number 2, very early round number 2. Flyweight division, very good fight. Sergio Pettis against Jussier Formiga, your classic striker versus grappler. You've got the technique of Sergio Pettis against the great ground fighting from Jussier Formiga. We'll start with Formiga. It's one of my kind of favourite fighters, and I think about this every time that he fights. I've been a fan for such a long time. He's one of my favourite fighters in the lower weight class division. He doesn't lose to bad fighters. You look at his record, and his losses in the UFC are to Dodson, Cejudo, Borg, and there's another one. I forgot his name. Joseph Benavidez. That's his only losses, and he beats everybody else that kind of gets put in his direction. Your Sasaki's, your Jorgensens, Ben Nguyen. He absolutely destroyed Ben Nguyen, I thought, in that fight, and really beat him up pretty badly. And the guy, once you get to the ground with this guy, if you give this guy the opportunity to get your back, you're in deep, deep trouble. And most of the time, he will find a way to submit you. Really technical takedowns as well. His takedowns are really good. So if you get in close with this guy, there's every opportunity he can take it to the ground, and that's when he starts to shine. His striking, I just think, solid. Like really, really, I just think he's a really solid fighter. Everything is really well tuned together, and he's just got a good fight game here. On the feet, obviously, Sergio Pettis has the advantage. He's the more technical fighter. Just fights within himself. Has really good footwork. Likes to maneuver around and keep it on the feet and just use that dominant. It's kind of like his brother in a way, but not as established with his jiu-jitsu and so on. But I mean, the guy's beat some good fighters. He's coming off that win over Benavidez, Brandon Moreno, Joe Moraga. He started to establish himself. That fight with Cejudo, I think that was a big learning fight for him, honestly. I think that Cejudo's got the belt now. He got dominated in that fight, taken down and blanketed a little bit. For me, it's like Khan's here. And I'm like, I don't know. I think that Pettis has got enough guile to maybe stay on his feet, and if it stays on the feet, he is going to win this fight. I'd like to see this fight go to the ground. I want to see where Pettis is with his ground game with an elite guy down there. But I just think that Sergio is going to be the pick here for me. I think he keeps it on the feet. I think that Formiga will have a couple opportunities, but I think that Pettis is just... See, I'm kind of doubting myself with this pick a little bit because I am a Formiga fan, but I'm also a big Sergio fan. I'm like, am I writing off Jussier Formiga a little bit too easily? I've got a feeling that he gets it to the ground, but he just can't stop Pettis. So yeah, I'm going to go Pettis. That was my original play. I'm going to stick to it. So Sergio Pettis via a decision there. Sorry guys, I'm just going to have a drink of water. I'm kind of fading pretty badly here. This week's been rough, so... Okay, bantamweight division. The main fight of the prelims. In my opinion, I think you should have this guy on the pay-per-view. But he's the last thing you see before you go into the pay-per-view here. So we've got Sugar Sean O'Malley against Jose Teco Quinonez in... I think it's a tough fight for Sean O'Malley, but I think this is going to be, if it wasn't the last time or on the Dana White show, this is going to be his coming out party. Looking at Teco, he's put himself, like when you watch the Latino America show, I wasn't overly impressed with that guy, I must admit. And then he came in to the UFC off that loss against Alejandro Perez, beat Chimay Morales, beat Joey Gomez, and then you start to see his game kind of changing, fighting very smart, mixing in takedowns, using his striking. He does get hit a lot, which is something that he cannot afford to do. He has get hit a lot by Sean O'Malley because Sean O'Malley has a lot of techniques that are very, very strong techniques that could hurt Teco. Teco's that kind of natural Mexican warrior, could throw down. I think early in his career, he's one of those fighters that would throw down and get himself into fist fights pretty clearly. And then, but since he's come into the UFC, he decided, right, how do I go around winning fights? Takedowns. The guy's got takedowns in every single one of his fights, and that's obviously went on to lead to win. So he's fighting smart, using a good game plan, and looking just to I don't think he's really a finisher by any stretch of the imagination, but I just think he's a good, solid fighter. But this, to me, is another massive step up from your Diego Rivas to your Teruto Ishiharas, I think, striking-wise. When you look at Sean O'Malley, last time out against Andre Sukumtath, now I've seen a lot of people say Sukumtath is stupid for the third round, and he really is. The fight IQ in that was pretty bad. You've got a guy hurting that badly, and you decided to take him to the ground. But for pretty much, let's say 7-8 minutes of that fight, because in the second round he did get taken down and he did get laid on a little bit, was very active off his back, was looking for triangles, sweeped him as well. But that first round for me was a 10-8. He completely beat Andre Sukumtath's ass, dropped him towards the end of the first with a lovely short right hook. mixing in high kicks, kicks to the body, switching stances, great footwork, great feints. Everything was on show in that first round in that fight. Then went into second, got taken down. It was pretty close in the early stages of that round, got taken down. Sukumta got him down, did nothing with it. Sean sweeped him, went into the dominant position, won that round still, even though he spent majority of it on his back. Then third round, started off really well, obviously hurt his foot. And then Sukumta went ahead and when you think about it, he should have really stopped that fight. He could have stopped that guy. But you're seeing the progression with Sean O'Malley. This, I think, is a tough fight because Teko's always going to be. I don't see him knocking out Teko. I think he's got a lot of flashy strikes, and he's got a lot of power because he's long and rangy. He uses. I'm one of these guys that loves feints, and he feints really, really well, and he gets fighters to open up. He gets them twitching and moving where he can establish and hit them with strikes. I think Teko will get takedowns in this fight. But I'm not writing off Sean O'Malley off his back because I think, from what I've seen in a couple of fights where he has been on his back, he's got triangles. He's a big, long, lanky guy. He can catch you with submissions, especially coming from someone like John Crouch, who's his jiu-jitsu coach. I see this being a very tough fight. I think that Quinonez could win, but for me, I think this is going to be the breakout performance for Sean O'Malley, and he's going to come out here. I don't think he knocks him out. But I think he puts on a very definitive performance, 30-27, 28-29, 29-28, I should say. I think he wins via unanimous decision there. So I'm going to go... I'm thinking about betting him by decision. I bet him last time out against Andre Sukumta. I actually bet him as an underdog, and I bet him via decision, which was a bit of a crazy number if I remember right. So yeah, I'm going to pick Sugar Sean O'Malley for the win there. So... moving on to the main card, we're starting off in the women's strawweight division with the karate hottie Michelle Waterson against Felice, little bulldog, Herrig. And this is another one I see being super, super close. I think when you look at them on the feet, I think that Michelle's obviously got that karate background. Felice has got some decent striking herself with I think it's a kickboxing background at or Muay Thai kickboxing background she comes from, so she's got some decent striking herself, and she showed that in a run with her wins over Kylan Curran and Alexa Grasso, Justine Quiche, Courtney Casey. That was a kind of bit of bad blood, that matchup that was back and forward a little bit. She was actually pretty lucky, I think, to win that fight, and then she lost to Karolina Kowalkiewicz back at UFC 223, where just the better striker, and Karolina was there on show. When it comes to striking, I do think that Michelle Waterson is the better striker, the more technical. I think she's the faster striker. I think that Herrig could be the bigger hitter of the two. I think this comes down to grappling, and I think that Michelle Waterson's got some underrated grappling. I mean, she took down, I want to say she took down Tisha Torres a couple of times. She took down Courtney Casey. Now, that fight, that could have went either way, in my opinion. And she got the nod in that one. And this one here, I'm finding it hard to... all week I've been here and I've been like, right, how's this going to take place? Are they going to stand there, trade a little bit, and then I think it's obviously going to get into a clinch, and who's going to get takedowns or who's going to get reversals to maybe... Is it going to take place on the cage? I'm kind of struggling with this one a little bit. I'm seeing people pretty confident in Felice Herrig, and I'm like, I'm not overly sure about that. I think that this fight, in my opinion, has got a split decision written all over it. And yeah, I don't know. I am struggling with this one. I think I'm going to go... Initially, I was going to go Michelle Waterson. But, oh, geez, I'm struggling with this one. I really am. Felice Herrig or Michelle Waterson. You know what? I'm going to stick with my original thought I'm going to go with Michelle Waterson. I'm not thoroughly interested in the fight, honestly, but I'm going to go with my initial gut feeling when I heard the fight. I thought this is going to be close. I think that Michelle is the better striker, and I do think she's got the grappling to maybe contain with Felice and get into positions where she could get into a position where she wins the rounds through that. So Michelle Waterson, I'm going to go a very, very close decision yet again. Moving on to the heavyweight division, we have Derrick the Black Beast Lewis against Alexander Volkov. And yeah, this is a good fight. Alexander Volkov has done nothing but be very impressive in his UFC tenure. I think I was there for his first fight against Tim Johnson, and I thought Tim won that fight personally. I was a little bit surprised that Volkov got the decision there. Since then, he's went on to beat Roy Nelson, knock out Stefan Struve very impressively, and then went and beat Fabrizio Verdum after coming through a couple of sticky moments early on there, but then completely beat up Fabrizio Verdum and got himself a beautiful finish. A long rangy fight, a tall guy, good kickboxing skills, and it's just a really good. He's turned into a better fighter than in the UFC than I give him credit for. I didn't think he beat Verdum, and Verdum was maybe even juicing in that fight as well. And he went out there and he handled him pretty convincingly, and got a great finish. Can't say anything kind of more than that. But he's got the Black Beast here, who he's such a hard guy to read with his fights. He's coming off the worst fight I think ever against Francis Ngannou. Because sometimes when he asserts himself, he's an absolute beast, but when he sits back and he gets tired, he's just someone there that you think, oh, he could get hurt, he could get knocked out. But he's one of those guys. Maybe he's a little bit smarter than I give him credit for, because he's obviously one of these guys that needs to cut down to 265 from probably 285 or so. He's a big, maybe even 300. He cuts himself down, so that's a lot of lumbar to lose. He's obviously got those back problems, which he said he's been retiring about 3 or 4 times, and never actually went on and retired, but it's kind of came back. But he's a guy that it's hard to write off this guy. I bet Marcin Tybura against him. I thought, yes, Tybura's got his back. He's gonna end up losing that fight. I think Tybura, I thought over the 15 minutes, I thought he's definitely going to lose this fight, and then somehow finds just the tiniest little shot, the little chink, and he hurts Tybura, and he hurts you. You look at his UFC record, I mean, the guy's lost like 3-4 times. Let me see. UFC 2014, he's been around a long time, and he's beat some like absolute kind of cans. I mean, Guto Inocencio, Ruan Potts, Victor Pesta, Damon Grabowski. I mean, they're the lowest of the lows when it comes to UFC level heavyweights. Gabriel Gonzaga knocked him out in the first round. Roy Nelson, he beat a pretty bone and split. Shamil Abdurrahimov, he lost those 3 rounds, and then the slightest bit of opportunity to get into a position where he could get your back, or get into the mount. The guy's got the most devastating mount probably in the UFC. He gets on top of you. That is not a fun gig whatsoever. And yeah, it's just a horrible place to be. Beat Travis Brown, lost to Mark Hunt, where he kind of just gassed out badly, and Mark Hunt took over and stopped him in that one. I think a lot of people were like, oh, he quit in that fight. I don't think he did. I just think Mark Hunt is a big hitter, and he kept on going. Lewis couldn't put him out, and he was just the one that got taken out. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about the Ngannou fight because it was an absolute smelly fight. When I look at this one here, if you go back and watch Volkov's Bellator fights, you will see that there is huge opportunities for Derrick Lewis to catch this guy. I don't even think he has to hit him fully with a big shot to hurt this guy. You go back, Rich Hale, sorry. He caught him with an overhand right. Vitaly Minakov caught him with that, like a right uppercut, put him down. If someone like Derrick Lewis catches you with one of those shots, or he backs you up against the fence where he can unload in those shots, I think he can put Alexander Volkov down. Now, I think that Volkov's going to be on his feet. He's going to be fighting with teeps, keeping Derrick Lewis away and try not get caught up against the cage where Derrick Lewis can maybe look for a takedown or look to throw just heavy combination strikes. I'm going to go with Derrick Lewis here. I think he's going to find a big shot and knock this guy out. I think he'll want to perform after that fight last time out. I mean, Ngannou did nothing. I think he was waiting for Derrick Lewis to maybe do something, and just nothing happened in that fight. And that left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, fans especially who were there. They must have, because that was a fight with massive anticipation of being two big bombers bombing on one another. And it turned out to be just a stare fest. There was nothing in that fight at all. So for me, I'm going to go with Derrick Lewis. I think he's going to find a way to hurt Alexander Volkov, get inside that long, rangy kind of distance that Volkov will keep, take the fight up against the fence or take it to the ground and find a way to stop Alexander Volkov. So I'm going to go a second round stoppage for Derrick Lewis in that one there. Light heavyweight division, interesting matchup. Ovince Preux against Dominick Reyes. And I think that Ovince Preux is a live dog here, but I've thought that in the past. In some of the fights I thought, not a live dog, but like I've been kind of really confident in him and he's not performed well. I think the one that always sticks in my head against Feijão Cavalcante, I thought he's got the skills here to really put on a show here, and he makes it close. He get hit with leg kicks in that one, he got hurt a little bit. And yeah, I'll be honest, I kind of, after the Manoa loss, I thought, right, he's kind of done. When you look at me, he really only loses to top 5 guys. Anybody outside of that, he handles them pretty convincingly. I mean, he was losing that fight with Corey Anderson, lands a massive head kick in the third there, knocks him out. Tyson Pedro, I think Pedro just showed his young blood, young insecurities or whatever, and just a young mind. That's it. That's what I'm trying to say. His young mind trying to take him down and then got caught in a kind of straight arm bar in that one there. But Dominick Reyes is coming through and has looked the part so far, but he's got himself another step up here. You don't go from Joachim Christensen to Jeremy Kimball to Jared Cannonier. It's the natural progression of where he's going. I don't think the first 2 fights in the UFC really make much difference to me. That they're not good fighters. Cannonier, I think, is a solid, serviceable fighter. Knocked him out in the first round here. Now, we have seen OSP hurt, knocked out by big hitters like Manoa. Has Dominick Reyes kind of got that here? I'm a little bit iffy. I'm a little bit worried with this fight. Initially, I was on OSP. Went back and watched Dominick Reyes' fights, and you cannot help but be kind of admire some of the strengths that he's got. I mean, he's got 3 wins in the UFC, all of them by stoppage, 2 by TKO, 1 by submission. So he's got skills on the ground. I don't think he wants to mix it down there with OSP, because OSP is super dangerous down there with kind of lot of funky attacks with these Von Flus and stuff like that. So he has to be careful. On the feet, I think he has the advantage, but he has to mind his P's and Q's up there because OSP is a big dude. He can hit you with weird unorthodox strikes like he did against like Shogun and so on. And he's got like kicks and so on. So yeah, has to be careful. I think he's going to be the aggressor in this one. And eventually I think he hits OSP with a strike that puts him down. And he stops him via a stoppage. But this is a clear step up from anything he's ever faced. He wins this fight. He's probably established himself as a top 7 guy in that division, looking to move into that top 5, get himself a far bigger fight. So for me, I'm going to go Dominick Reyes via second round TKO. But initially, I thought OSP was live, and I do think he is, but I feel more confident picking Reyes via a stoppage there. So moving on to the co-main event, El Kukui, Tony Ferguson against Anthony Showtime Pettis. Great co-main event. And if you watch UFC 220 or whatever, I can't even remember when Anthony Pettis faced Michael Chiesa. You see me, I was humming and hawing. Sometimes I get a little bit like you said, I'm a massive fan of Anthony Pettis. Maybe a little bit of a fanboy in me. I need to be careful with that with some of my picks sometimes, because I am a fan so much that I try not let that override my pick. And I thought that Michael Chiesa was a very good pick coming into that one. As the fight week went on, I heard he was limping. I heard his weight cut was going bad, and I was like, I knew something was going to happen. And Anthony Pettis came out and showed that that was the old kind of Anthony Pettis a little bit there. You saw the chinks a little bit. And Pettis is one of those guys that you have to be super careful with, because if you give him time to operate at like a kicking distance, he will hurt you. People still, I think, underestimate his jiu-jitsu skills. He is one of the most craftiest guys down there, and he's shown that in the past. I mean, he submitted Charles Oliveira, and not too many people do that. Submitted Chiesa, obviously, Gilbert Melendez back in the day. So you have to be careful with him. At striking, obviously, he likes that kicking range. And if you can close in him like Eddie Alvarez did, Rafael dos Anjos did, you can, like Barboza kind of, he didn't really get in close, but he was the faster guy at the distance and really beat up those legs. His last two wins, I mean, Chiesa, he's moved up to 170. He's not going to be back at 155. He had a bad week with weight cut and so on. Jim Miller, I think he caught him at a good time. He's kind of come through that Lyme disease and looked great last time against Alec White, but still I thought Pettis looked very good in that fight. And this one here with Tony Ferguson, a lot of people are obviously writing him off. I'm not going to be one of those guys that completely writes off a former UFC champion. It's a big fight against Tony Ferguson, who is coming back after a very serious injury. But if you go back and look at his social media, this guy he's probably back way before he even should. Got himself onto this card here. He wins this fight. He's next in line for whoever wins that main event that we've got coming up alongside Poirier and Diaz. He's kind of putting himself in the mix. It could be any one of those three, depending who wins the main event and so on. So when you look at Tony, a guy who is super dynamic, pretty much everywhere, got wrestling that we don't really see all that much of, super fast striking, herky-jerky strikes, weird footwork, pretty quick, long, kind of got some decent power as well, has some frailties with, sometimes he can be hit, he can be with a good counter striker who could possibly pick you off at distance a little bit and pick your strikes. We've seen the Venata, he caught him with some super strikes in that one there and hurt him up a little bit. Like I say, if this stays at a kicking range, I think that Pettis has opportunities to win possibly rounds, but it's hard for me to sit, like I'm doubting, I'm thinking here, like, if this was at kicking range, could he win a 15-minute fight with Tony Ferguson? I don't know. I don't think so. It'd be interesting. I'm seeing people say this like a bad matchup for Tony Ferguson, and I'm not on board with that. I think that Pettis can give him problems. If the Pettis that shows up the last time against Chiesa, and if this is some of the old Showtime coming through, this could be a great fight. But for me, it's just hard to look. It's hard for me to pick Anthony Pettis here. I think that Ferguson is just a hard fighter to fight, pretty much. He's good in every aspect. He's got a lot of output. He's hard to kind of game plan for because you don't know what he's going to do. He does a lot of kind of funky stuff. Yeah, I'm going to pick Tony Ferguson to win via decision. I'm hoping. obviously, that Anthony Pettis goes ahead and does it. But I see it being a struggle, not unless Tony Ferguson is coming back too soon. That injury is not fully healed, which I believe it will be if he's been passed to get into a fight, to say the least. I'm going to pick Tony Ferguson via decision, though. So we are at the main event of the night for UFC 229, and the fight that everybody's talking about. The champion Khabib Nurmagomedov against the former 2-division king, the returning notorious Conor McGregor, coming back after his boxing bout. We had what did we have last week? We had the press conference in New York, which was a little bit crazy. McGregor, you could see that he's really G'd up for this fight. He really wants to hurt Nurmagomedov, but I also think he realizes what kind of fighter Khabib Nurmagomedov really, really is, and someone that he's thoroughly training for. He's saying his camp is like a war zone, and he's ready for this one here. But is he really ready? I'm not. It's hard to tell. This fight's really, really hard, because when you sit back and obviously when you look at this fight, there is so much that you look at. You go back and you watch every fight within the UFC and you see little things, but then you see the good things that he does. Like, I suppose we'll start with who will we start? We'll start with the champion. It's best to start with the champion. What is his game plan going to be? I think it's fairly obvious. Khabib, since he's been in the UFC, he's not did a hell of a lot wrong. He'd be lucky if he's lost a round or two. That T-Bow fight was probably his closest fight. And I don't believe that he should have really won that one as convincingly as he did. But an elite grappler, super, super strong, super, super aggressive. You look at his fights with Michael Johnson, Edson Barboza, one you can take a lot away from. I think it still amazes me how much he harried Barboza there, and he completely gassed him out in the first minute once he started establishing takedowns. He is a kicking fighter as Barboza, where I don't think that he can pressure like he did against Barboza against McGregor, because McGregor has too many tools. He's obviously he's got kicks and so on, but his boxing is some of the purest in the UFC, and he throws from funky angles, counter strikes very, very fast, and obviously he's got the death stroke with that left hand as well. So what is he going to do? Is he, for me, when I think about Khabib here, there is no way he can stand at distance, because when I think of the three distance, so you've got the long distance, the long range game, you've got the mid game, and then you've got obviously the close game. If we've got a close game here, Khabib wins that all day long with his strength. You would have to think if they're getting a clinch position up against the cage, Khabib is going to win that. Now, we have seen Conor do all right against some of the smaller guys regarding getting some of them off them and so on. But when you've got someone like Khabib, who is right there in your face, and it's just looking, and his chain wrestling is awesome as well. So if he can't get you with one thing, he's forever looking for another way to get you down. So that's something you have to be wary of. The long game, there's absolutely no way Khabib can stand at distance here with Conor, because if Khabib is there and he's at range, Conor is going to pick him. And Conor's going on about Khabib's got this glass chin. To be honest, we haven't really seen him hit with venomous strike. We've seen little bits. We've seen that Michael Johnson had a little bit of success. Thiago Tavares had a tiny little bit, not too much. So he cannot stand at range. That if he stands at range with a counter striker, with a power striker, with a speedy striker like Conor McGregor, with the hands that he's got, he will be put down. And that's something I think that it's just interesting to see what his game plan has to be. Can he be as aggressive as he was in the the Barboza fight in this one here, because I think that's, for me, I think that's what he has to do. I think he has to get super aggressive and just go for him. Like, you heard McGregor at the press conference, you're wrestling, you just go for the legs. Absolutely. You don't want to stand there and take strikes when you've got a game like Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's got that stifling game where he can probably stop you when he wants to with his ground and pound. He's got submission skills, obviously. We haven't really seen too much of it in the UFC. We've seen bits and pieces. But he's got that style where I think he could go hard for 25 minutes in that stifling grappling where he could beat you up and just really wear you out. At the mid-range, I think he's in deep, deep trouble if he starts striking there, because McGregor has so many tools, so many feints, so many his gauging of distance is exceptional. The way he kind of works off that back foot and he feints and he moves forward, and just the way he can kind of gauge distance, and he brings people in, he gets people to aggressive. I really shouldn't take too much away from the Alvarez fight, because Alvarez, he looked kind of shook before that fight even started when he was in the cage and he was getting ready. There was McGregor, I'd probably mentally wore him out running into that one here. I don't think McGregor has mentally wore or even got close to Khabib Nurmagomedov and wearing him out. So that'll be a kind of interesting dynamic. Now, we've still got a whole fight week to go. That's where it can kind of take place. He can maybe get in the head on fight week. And I mean, that press conference they did was dark as anything. A lot of the kind of Russian politics and guys who are in jail and so on and so on. I think he got to him a little bit, but I don't think he infiltrated as much as what people are letting on. It's like, oh, he's deep in his skull and he's deep in his psyche. And I'm like, no, he's really not. He's really not. And McGregor was trying super hard to get in there, but didn't really get in there, if you know what I mean. But that's what Khabib's style has to be. He has to get Conor to the ground, and if he can establish that over the first 2 rounds, he's going to knacker someone like McGregor, who we've seen struggle with his conditioning, with his cardio, and we've seen him go 5 rounds, obviously, against Nate Diaz. But in the kind of mid-rounds there, he struggled a lot. He was running, he was moving out the road quite a bit. He was pretty much just backing up against the fence. If he was to back up against the fence here against someone like Khabib will take him down. Now, the one thing I always say that people say, he will get him down to... And we've seen Conor taken down. I mean, Chad Mendes had success in doing that. But the one thing I always say is, like, I've seen with my own 2 eyes, I was in the crowd for that one, I've seen him find a way to get back to his feet. And we've seen that when he got back to his feet, and I know that Mendes was coming in 2 weeks' notice, but you have to remember that Conor had a really bad ACL injury going into that fight, a really bad ACL injury going into that fight, but still found a way to get back to his feet. And once he gets back to his feet, you're in trouble, not unless you're consistently in there and you're grabbing him and he cannot get his strikes off, because if he does, you're in deep trouble. Conor is obviously going to want to keep this standing, because if he's got such a huge advantage on the feet, it's not even funny. You watch Khabib, really, his head is there to be hit so easily. His head movement is non-existent. His feet, you go back and watch his feet when he's striking, his feet does not move. So someone like Conor can angle off, go to the side, and start pinging someone like Khabib. And he's open. Even if Khabib has some success with his striking, he's so open to the counter shots of Conor McGregor, it's not even funny. So that's obviously, Khabib's has to get this fight to the ground. If he doesn't, it's going to be a long night. He will get knocked out badly. If Conor cannot stop the initial rush of someone like Khabib, then he will be in trouble, because he will be taken down and he will get hurt on the ground with someone like Khabib on top of him. We've seen that. I thought the fight against Ali Quinta for Khabib he started off great, and then I think he just kind of realised, right, this guy's really not going to do anything to me, and he really took it slow, and he went the full 25 minutes, and I thought he could have got all out of there personally if he pushed himself a little bit. But honestly, guys, I've struggled kind of badly in this matchup, how it would go. For the longest time, I thought, right, Khabib is definitely going to win this fight. And then I think about Conor just... One of the things I've been thinking about as well is, like, this is huge for Khabib Nurmagomedov. He has not even been close. I mean, close to a fight this size. Yes, he's beat former champions. But he's not been in the big fight environment. He's had as many fights with Tonya pull out. When he fought RDA, I don't think it was a main event or anything at all. So this is huge. This is like a career-defining fight for this guy. He needs this win here, because if he can't beat McGregor, it's hard to tell. It's just I'm struggling with the fight pick on honestly. If you think the fight's going on late, there's only really one winner. It's going to be Khabib. If you're looking for someone early, it's going to be Conor. I'm struggling with this one a little bit. Ultimately, I'm going to pick Conor McGregor. I think that he lands strikes on the guy who just sometimes he's there to be hit. Or it's hard to say because he's not really been hit all that much. So I don't know. I'm going to go with Conor McGregor. I could go on and talk and keep on talking about how they're going to win this fight. I think Conor catches him with a shot, and then Khabib starts to wonder, right, then he starts to get aggressive, and then he starts to get picked off. That's how I see things. I was going to do, and I probably forgot, I made a big list of things, but like I say, I thought I had to get this out now before the fight week started, get a good run into there, and people have been asking me about getting this out. But I've thought long and hard on this one, and honestly, I'm kind of 51-49 in favour of Conor. But yeah, I'm going to go Conor McGregor, a round 2 knockout over Khabib Nurmagomedov there. So yeah, that's my picks for UFC 229. I'm sorry if my demeanour's been a little bit down this one, guys. I'm super sick. This food poisoning is legit. I've never had anything like that in my life, where it just depletes you and everything. So yeah, that's my picks for UFC 229. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back for UFC in Canada at the end of the month. Until then, take care. Enjoy UFC 229 because it's going to be special. And I might do like a reaction video with me watching the fight, which I've did in the past for Conor McGregor fights, and that's turned out to be pretty fun. So keep an eye on that. But until then, all the best and enjoy the fight card next week.